My name is Jenna, but before I begin, let me ask you, have you ever been told your pain was an inconvenience? Have you ever had your deepest wound used as leverage by the very people who were supposed to help you heal? My parents left my 7-year-old son at a remote, closing state park. His punishment for my crime. And my crime? I refused to give them the settlement money I received after my husband's death. They wanted it for my brother, of course. My younger brother, Kevin, the golden boy, the one whose mistakes were always just unfortunate mishaps. He had another brilliant business idea, another venture that required capital he didn't have, and a work ethic he'd never learned. My parents had exhausted their own savings funding his failures, so they came for mine. I was a widow. My husband, Mark, had been gone for a little over a year, taken in a car accident that wasn't his fault. The settlement I received was not a lottery win. It was blood money. It was the price tag the world had put on my husband's life, and it was meant for our son, Leo. It was meant to be his future, the one Mark would never get to see. My parents saw it as a solution to their immediate problem, Kevin. They came to my small rental house one Sunday, their faces a mask of strained sympathy. "Jenna, honey," my mother began, "we know how hard this has been, but Kevin has an opportunity that could change everything for this family." They wanted $100,000. A loan, they called it. I said no. My voice was quiet but firm. I explained that the money was sacred. It was for Leo's education, his future, a safety net that his father had unknowingly provided. Their sympathy vanished instantly. My father's face hardened. "So, you're just going to hoard it while your own brother struggles? After all we've done for you?" The argument that followed was the same one we'd had my whole life. I was selfish for protecting my boundaries. I was ungrateful for not sacrificing my needs for Kevin's wants. I didn't raise my voice. I just kept saying no. They left in a storm of angry, cutting words, my mother's final shot being, "You'll regret turning your back on family, Jenna." A week later, they offered to take Leo for a grandparents' day out to the state park. I hesitated, a knot of dread in my stomach. But Leo was so excited. He loved the hiking trails and the lake. I convinced myself I was being paranoid, that even they wouldn't use my son to punish me. I was wrong. The call came at dusk from a park ranger. "Ma'am, we found your son near the boat docks. The park closed an hour ago. He's alone." My world tilted. I drove the 45 minutes in a haze of pure terror. I found Leo wrapped in a ranger's jacket, his face pale and tear-streaked. Pinned to his backpack was a note, written in my mother's cursive. "He needs to learn that his mother's choices affect everyone." He wasn't just left behind. He was abandoned, deliberately, used as a message. As I held my sobbing child, something inside me broke. But it didn't spill out as tears. It hardened into a cold, quiet resolve. They hadn't just crossed a line. They had torched the entire map. This was not a family dispute anymore. This was a war, and they had no idea I was armed. I took Leo home, made him hot chocolate, and tucked him into bed. Then I went into my home office and unlocked a file cabinet my parents didn't even know existed. Inside was a file labeled Legacy. My late husband, Mark, had not just been a loving father. He had been a brilliant contract lawyer, and he had never trusted my family. Before he died, he helped his own father, a man who owned a successful local construction company, structure his business. As a gift and as a measure of protection for me, Mark had negotiated a small, non-voting share of that company in my name. It was a piece of paper I had filed away and almost forgotten about. But Mark had built a silent weapon into that agreement, a clause he called the Character Covenant. It stated that if any majority stakeholder was found to be engaged in behavior that demonstrated gross negligence or moral turpitude, I, the minority shareholder, had the right to trigger a full, independent audit and force a buyout of my shares at peak market value. My parents were the majority stakeholders. My father had inherited the business from his own dad. They saw it as their personal bank account, a way to fund Kevin's lifestyle. Leaving a 7-year-old child alone in a closing state park was, without question, an act of gross negligence. They had just handed me the trigger. The next day, I didn't call them. I called the lawyer who had drafted the original agreement. I explained the situation calmly and emailed him a photo of the note and the park ranger's official report. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. Then, Jenna, he said, Mark was a smart man. Let's get to work. We initiated the process quietly. We filed the notice to trigger the character covenant, citing the abandonment of my son as the primary cause. The legal notice landed on my father's desk on a Tuesday morning. I can only imagine the shock, the dawning horror as he realized a forgotten clause in an old contract was about to dismantle his entire world. He called me, screaming, "What is this? What have you done?" "I'm enforcing an agreement," I replied, my voice steady. "An agreement that protects this family's legacy from people who would endanger a child as a form of punishment. You'll get nothing," he yelled. "We'll fight you." "I think you'll find," I said, "that you have very little to fight with." The audit began. It was a slow, meticulous process that peeled back the layers of their financial mismanagement. They had been using company funds as their personal slush fund for years, paying for Kevin's lavish trips, covering his debts, buying him cars he would later crash. It was all there, in black and white. Their perfect family image began to crack. Word got out in their small, gossipy town. First, that they were being audited. Then, the whispers about why. The story of them leaving Leo in the park, a story they thought was a private act of retaliation, became a public stain on their reputation. Kevin, predictably, fled. As soon as the financial trouble started, he packed his bags and moved to another state, leaving my parents to face the consequences of the mess they had funded. Their golden boy had abandoned them the moment the gold ran out. The audit revealed the company was worth far more than they had reported on their taxes, but it was also drowning in debt they had accrued to support Kevin. The forced buyout meant they had to pay me the full, fair market value for my shares. To do that, they would have to sell a significant portion of the company itself. The final meeting took place in the lawyer's office. My father and mother sat across from me, looking older, smaller, and defeated. They had lost. Their reputation was in tatters, their finances were ruined, and their favorite son was gone. "Why, Jenna?" my mother whispered. "Why would you do this to us?" "You left my son alone in the woods," I said, my voice quiet but unyielding. "You used my child to punish me. You seem to think that's something a family can recover from. It's not. This isn't revenge, Mother. This is a consequence. The one you earned." They were forced to sell a 40% stake in their company to an outside investor. The money was transferred to me. With it, I bought a new house in a new school district, far away from them and the ghosts of our past. I set up a trust for Leo that no one but me could ever touch. My revenge was not a single, fiery act. It was a quiet, legal, and systematic dismantling of their power. I used the very tools of business and law that they respected to hold them accountable for an act of profound inhumanity. They thought my grief made me weak, but they were wrong. It made me meticulous. My husband had left me more than just a settlement. He had left me a shield, a weapon, and the knowledge of how to use it. They tried to break me by taking away my son's safety. In the end, I took away their company, their legacy, and their power to ever hurt us again. I sometimes drive past the old construction company headquarters. It has a new name on the sign now, part of the investor's larger group. My family are employees in the company they once owned. They are forced to answer to a boss, to live by a budget, to face the reality of a world that does not revolve around them. The state park is still there, of course. Leo and I go back sometimes, not to the boat docks, but to a sunny meadow on the other side of the lake. We have picnics, fly kites, and create new memories. We are building a new foundation, one based not on obligation or guilt, but on unconditional love and unwavering protection. They wanted to teach me a lesson about family loyalty. Instead, I taught them a lesson about consequences. They left my son alone, thinking no one was watching. But his father was, and he had made sure his wife and child would never truly be defenseless. Have you ever had to use someone's own rules against them to find justice? A time when a quiet, methodical approach was your only path forward. I want to hear your story in the comments below. And if you believe that the most powerful revenge is a life well lived, built on a foundation of unbreakable truth, subscribe to Revenge with Annie.